Hey, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you're watching this edition of Hypnosis Week Live. As you already know, my name by birth is Alex William Smith, better known to many of you as Jonathan Royal, hypnotist of magicalguru.com. That's enough about me, because I'm excited this week to be joined by a guest who is a licensed official trainer for the UK Hypnosis Academy, which means that he is a teacher and trainer of their unique approach of kinetic shift, as well as other hypnotherapeutic approaches. He also organises an online meetup thing called Hypno Meetups, but they're doing a live event, the first one, I hope of many, in May 2020, which we'll get him to tell us more about very, very shortly. So please welcome to the show, Graham Webber.
Hi Alex, how you doing? You all right?
I'm not bad, bud. How are you?
Yeah, keeping well, keeping busy.
So for the people who don't know you, who end up seeing this video, explain a little bit how, and we're recording this on the 20th of January 2020, if you find this in years to come, but explain how you ended up where you are now, being a trainer for the UK Hypnosis Academy, because obviously you've not been a hypnotist all your life.
No, yeah, it's been a bit of a journey. So my background's actually military, serving as a soldier in the military. During that time, I started with magic, always got a deck of cards around, and magic became a utility for me to break out my comfort zone, but also being able to engage with people for like ice breaking and such, like being able to get my message across a little bit, I suppose, being able to make me feel comfortable in front of people. And then eventually Anthony Jacquin, like yourself, Jonathan Chase, and all them sort of people, all online, reference stage hypnosis. So I started looking into that, and then it actually took me 4 years from practicing to actually feel comfortable with hypnotizing someone. Soon realizing what the actual main falter was, and then I had a friend. Then once it popped, started doing street, and then I started doing some stage hypnosis on camps and things where I was. Following there, yeah. So,
all right, okay.
Yeah. Well, private events, isn't it? So
yeah.
you get involved with that, and then from there, I had a friend who had PTSD. I wanted to help him more, so I started looking into being a therapist. Different approaches, different people, training with them and such like. In the end, obviously, I came on a course with yourself. Following that, I went on a course with Carl. Resonated with me more, if I'm honest, because of my bouncy sort of approach that I am. I like to talk a lot. I like to just be straight hands-on. And then eventually, with my qualifications I've gained from the military and things, he talked to me about, well, obviously I'd already learned KS, but he talked to me about bringing trainers on, and it sat with me well. Since then, I've been working with Bev Gisburn. We've travelled around the world doing it, to Australia and such like. And yeah, I think we're teaching our 8th course this March.
So for those who have no insight whatsoever, which if they've not been on a course with yourself or one of the other trainers, is probably they'll fall into that category. Yeah. What exactly, as much as you can detail it in this context, what exactly is kinetic shift?
So it's a modality. It's not actual hypnosis. It's a mixture of 7 different steps which are utilised to be able to make a rapid change in someone. It was first created by Carl Smith at the UK Hypnosis Academy, following his time with PTSD. He was working alongside Catherine Temple, and they were just thinking about different things. They come across something, and that day he had someone. She had someone. I think it was rewiring her house, and he was suffering with PTSD. They ended up doing this thing, and that was very kinetic, and it made him shift and become kinetic shift. But like I say, it was creative for a content-free approach. So it wasn't really about being able to ask someone loads of questions. It was more about them being able to capture what that moment was inside, and then from there being able to make the change. Without them even realising something's actually happening. Because at times, if you're to tell someone, right, I'm going to hypnotise you, the first thing they may do is go, oh my God, put the tinfoil hat on and run out the door. Whereas this was much more softer, but yet impactive, that something can happen without necessarily realising.
Now, for people who might have a NLP background as opposed to the more conventional hypnosis, and I'm doing that because it is, how does this relate or not relate to the submodality shift work in NLP?
So, well, so if you used to bracket it off in some ways, you could say the modality comes off similar to the meta pattern and stuff like that as well. If you can associate something, if you can disassociate something, you can utilize it in that way. Obviously, this way is a lot more hands-on approach, whereas you're making it a lot more visualized. Whereas obviously with the meta pattern, people are just thinking about what they're going through. There's a lot more physical aspect to the kinetic shift. Not saying you get someone in an armbar, but it's much more that they can actually see, feel, and emphasize something going. And it's very quick. Like I say, NLP as well can be very. Any approach can be very quick. And I think the reason why I get on with it very well is due to my magic.
Okay.
Providing you build up rapport, providing you have a liaison with someone that you can pull them in. Exactly the same as doing a card trick. When you're waving your hand over here, but in fact the cards are in this hand, without them even realizing.
I thought you were going to do a trick then.
Oh no! Like I say, I always just play with them in my hands. When you are doing something like that, it soon becomes apparent that you can talk to people in a way that it pulls them in to give them that support, to give them the rapport, and using the rapport, like I said before, you can then go on to the dynamics that is kinetic shift to be able to do it.
Okay, this is playing devil's advocate, and don't worry, you will see when you watch videos of interviews with other people, I've asked everybody this same question, and everyone that comes after you will get asked this exact same question.
Yeah.
So make of it what you will. You've just saved me asking you a question, because you've already pointed out that there is this element of once you've got a rapport with somebody, a trust, call it what you will. There's many, depending on what approach you're using, people would use different words for the same thing. And therefore, then there's a credibility and a belief in place.
Mm-hmm.
How, and you've stressed that is important. Without a doubt, it definitely is important. What would you say to the people who say that ultimately is what is important? What you do after that doesn't particularly matter a blind bit, really, as long as you do it in a manner that it seems important, so that people pick up on your intent for it to help them.
Yes and no. So, yes, it is important what you do afterwards, because the last thing you want to do is impact something that could recreate the negativity or cement it even more. Last thing you want to do is say something that, let's say you've got someone who's PTSD from being attacked. If you was to afterwards, I don't know, go jovial in any sort of way, then obviously that's going to break every last little bit of rapport. So it's not just that once something's created, you can say whatever afterwards. It's about maintaining that the whole way through by using the linguistics, by using the training of whatever you've got, and being able to use their methodologies, the wording, and like I say, maintaining that rapport afterwards will keep it on track. Now, as we all know, yes, there is many different ways of how you can approach this. There's a reason why some people use scripts, some people don't use scripts. How can a script work if you're just reading the same words every single time? How can it be that you're not using the script, but you're just going off the cuff with how it is you're looking at the person and doing it? Mm-hmm. Now, how is it that people can have equal amounts of results at the same time and people can't as well? Now, I believe personally scripts limit you to where you can go, because if you're saying the same thing every single time, you're only going to get a certain amount of hits. But like I said before, the rapport post, it does matter what you do, but it doesn't matter as much as if you have got something that's fine tuned that can hit multiple spots, and that comes down to knowing people.
Okay. Now, one of the areas, as you said, that you particularly specialise in, mm-hmm. because obviously your background, which gives you a major advantage in that arena, both credibility and background knowing it. arena is working with people who are involved in the armed forces, the military.
Yeah.
Can you tell? I'm not asking you to reveal anything about clients, obviously, because of client confidentiality. But can you tell us the sort of? I know the quick, simple answer is to say you deal with things like PTSD, or as it used to be called in the past, shell shock and things like that. But I'm sure there's much more to it than that.
So rather than going into actual sessions and such like, very much like what I taught at the UK Hypnosis Academy last year now, and sorry, not UK Hypnosis Convention. The big thing about the military is where people get the person wrong. The big thing about everything is rapport in my eyes. And if you do not understand the military, now that's not saying that you don't understand that they go to war, they spend time away from the family and such like, but if you don't understand how a soldier speaks, how a soldier converses, what a soldier's behaviours are, then that way you're going to lose the rapport. So, you know, in the words of a soldier, if you're getting jacked on by the civvy, then you're never going to be able to fix them. Do you know what I mean? So there's only certain people who'll be able to fully understand what I'm getting on there. It's much more, it's not an us and them, but as a therapist, you've got to be able to understand the military, to be able to pull them in, to be able to maintain the rapport. Like I said before, you can build up rapport, you can talk to someone, you can get onto it. But then if that person is telling you what their background is, you know, they're on Herrick 13, they're traveling in the back of a jackal, and every 2 minutes going, sorry, what's a jackal? Sorry, Herrick 13, what do you mean by that? You're going to lose them faster than what you got them even in through your door, which then means no change work will take place. That person will not believe in another therapist. And if they are on a slippery slope, they're just going to keep slipping a bit faster.
Yeah, I can totally agree and see where you're coming from therapeutic-wise. I'll just say that stage hypnosis-wise, the easiest people I've ever found to hypnotise are people in the military, because they're already conditioned to, well, as long as the place where you're performing, somebody in a higher authority position than them is the person who's booked the event. Then they're the easiest people on the planet to do shows for, because they don't want to upset the person who's paying the bill.
Yeah.
But therapeutically, yeah, I think that's the same law in all walks of life to a degree.
Oh, absolutely. I'd like, you know, I agree. It is the same in all walks of life, but however, not everyone. Granted, you've got colloquialisms. If you're, you know, obviously for your accent compared to my accent, even though I'm only from Chester originally, my accent's changed a lot. If I do get talking and I get in depth with things, I have to concentrate a lot now not to use squaddy lingo. Whereas you give me a beer, it comes out every 2 seconds. Obviously, you know, things like swearing in that as well, it can be much more profound within the military than what it is in civilian life. So it's how and where do you use it. Sometimes with clients, you know, you may get a client who swears a lot. In my eyes, I say join them, use their language, what comes along with them, and if you can use it to build that rapport, and again, like I say, get them working on the same song sheet, then you're only ever going to be able to pick out a little bit better, because, you know, we've done NLP basics and things like that. Mirroring and matching becomes a massive way of building rapport in a very fast avenue.
Excellent. With men in general, I'm just taking men as an example. I'm not being sexist, people at home. We're covering all sexes here. But men, it's in the past couple of years, it's become more obvious that, you know, there's high suicide rates in men, and men tend to be quite reserved about admitting that they need help or dealing with things. Now, I know one or two people in the military, and it's like it's amplified with them from what I've observed, because obviously there's that perception of they are the protector. How does that impact things in the arena you work? And obviously it's not just the fact that, and obviously it applies to the females as well in the armed forces. It's just men have got a double whammy there.
There's a multitude of levels. I can't go into it too much because of obvious reasons, but I think you really, if anything, you've got to look at the picture, the bigger picture as well. A person's usually in the military to get away from something, or to obviously go into a new adventure. You know, there's a multitude of ways there. yes, you could say as the protector, but there's multiple roles. I'm a vehicle mechanic by trade, so obviously for me there, that's completely different to someone who's on the front line. So yeah, like I suppose it comes back into that same role of you need to understand what is happening there. What is that picture? For me, I was, I was like, I was 18. Yeah, I was 18. How many think now? Yeah. So I was 18 and a half when I was in Iraq. The day on patrol, well, on a road move, the day Saddam Hussein got caught, and I was shot at, but it wasn't until I returned fire. It wasn't until I got to Basra Palace that I started seeing all the signs that Saddam Hussein had been captured. So then straight away through my head, is it celebration with fire? Was someone shooting at me? I don't know. I seen someone there. I seen the rounds hitting the floor. It wasn't natural for someone of my environment, being a vehicle mechanic, to come under contact. But we did. It was that day. It was pretty memorable. But how can you ever say what's going to happen? I've had friends who've lost best mates, stood right next to them. I was in Cyprus doing the Cyprus Challenge this year. In 2019, the end of November. I had a friend, military, who was running around with a 3 kilogram medicine ball. So if anyone is interested, look into it. The medicineballchallenge.com, I'm pretty sure it is, or just type in medicine ball challenge onto Facebook. You'll see that it's going all the way around the country where people carry medicine ball for so many days or whatever time frame you can do. In everyday life, there's only, I think it's 3 conditions as to when you can take it off: when you're sleeping, when you're in a shower, or when you're driving. So obviously for this, the Cyprus Challenge is a 4-day running event. Day 1's a 6-kilometer road race. Day 2 is 11-kilometer mountain race. Day 3 is a half marathon, and day 4 is a 10-kilometer fun run. So he did all 4 of them events carrying this 3 kilogram medicine ball, and it nearly crippled him. It really did. Well, never crippled him, but it really did take the life out of him, just to be carrying that extra little weight of a burden, which signifies what people carry on a day-to-day basis.
So these days, the term post-traumatic stress disorder gets bandied around, frankly, more than it should, because there's people out there who, frankly, are just going through the niggles of life when you encounter them. I'm not saying that's a case with anyone in the military, but I'm just saying in the general mass populace out there, it's become almost... We had the era of it's cool to have a therapist about a decade ago. And now, stress was the buzzword for a while. Now, tons of people who, frankly, should... And I'm not on about people in the military. I'm not on about people in uniformed services. I'm not on about people who've just, maybe had a bereavement in tragic circumstances in everyday life. I'm on about the attention-seeking idiots out there who jump on the bandwagon and, it used to be stress, now it's PTSD, I've gone through something. There's a world of difference in the kind of stuff you're dealing with and the things that people will have gone through or in any uniformed services than what the majority of people encounter. So consequently, there'll be a world of difference, generally speaking, in terms of what you're confronting as a therapist to what most therapists will be encountering. How do you, as the therapist, deal with that in terms of what they call therapist burnout, because of the extreme nature of the stuff you're helping people with?
Okay, so I'll probably explain this recently. I don't know, it's been since I've been learning hypnosis in different ways that I came up with I don't know what the wording is, prophecy, I don't know, development. Anything that happens, even after this, after we've done this, what can be changed? Therefore, while I'm doing it, watch out for how and why I speak. Or if I'm saying something, obviously, then it needs to be said. But at the same time, last thing I want to be doing is be pulling myself into it so emotionally that I take away the burden as well. Now, It's not to say that I don't care about people. I really do care. That's why I always make sure I check up on my clients and make sure everything's fine. But I don't emotionally bond myself to that situation to the point where, I can really draw it in. Don't get me wrong, there's certain circumstances where you do think, shit, but there's also times when you think, okay, well, that just means I've got to make sure I do a bloody good job of what I'm doing here. And providing you put all that energy into doing your job, then you'll tend to find that it doesn't get picked up on afterwards. You just got to make sure you maintain. Because, like I say to everyone, it doesn't matter what happens, it's already in the past. Even what I was just saying 2 seconds ago is in the past. We can't change it.
Given that, for example, yourself and Carl Smith of the UK Hypnosis Academy have both got military backgrounds, obviously that gives you an advantage in terms of what you were saying before because of knowing the lingo, instant understanding.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you find that relates, because there's all different areas of the military, isn't there? Different armed forces and whatnot. Knowing the lingo in one, does that help you with like other armed forces, or is it you kind of like got an easy in with a certain area of the armed forces that you were in and understand?
I know what you're getting at. No, it does. It carries across massively. Although, military to police to firefighters and everything like that. Yes, there's some lingo which is different, but usually what you tend to see is that personalities are the same.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? The banterous sort of doesn't get easily offended, likes to step outside the comfort zone a little bit more, sort of person who, if you do say something, it's not like they're going to get offended by you straight away. So, yeah, you tend to be a lot more comfortable saying what you need to say or being who you need to be in front of each other.
Do you think that background and training as well has already given you a mind state that helps you deal more effectively with people? I know you do it mainly content free, but if they suddenly decide they want to tell you what they've got rid of or they're going through or whatever, do you think that because of your training, non-hypnosis but military wise before that helps you handle it as well?
Yeah, it definitely helps with resilience. I think really any therapist who's, again, back to the start, has built up a rapport, is connected in one way or another through the session, who has the intent and is competent with what they're doing. Even if you are working content free, you can usually pick up what's sort of wrong. I would say sort of wrong very, very carefully, because I don't want to sound like I'm not paying attention to it, but massively, usually just by gestures and where people are placing their hands and things. And this is why myself, Carl, and other trainers from UK Hypnosis Academy don't like scripts. It's because if that one person, one moment in time, you could be reading something that you think is absolutely specific, but that person could literally be holding onto their throat, let's say, for example, and you miss it because by the time you look back at them, they've just relaxed and it looks like they've just wiped themselves. Now, for me, that could be a massive thing that you need to tell them to let go of. You need to pick up on that reason and action upon it. Again, usually linguistics, you don't necessarily know what's right. If you obviously feel like it is something that's significant, then dip your toe into being the full therapist and ask them if it's something they want to talk about. Because a problem shared is a problem halved. Acceptance is the first step of recovery in my eyes.
Yeah. No, very, very, very good points indeed. So for people who are watching, my message from that I take from that straight away is to say to the people at home, it's not that I'm trying to butt you off from ever trying to help someone who's involved in the military. I'm just suggesting maybe, and I'll throw this back to Graham in a minute, that we should all as therapists perhaps realise that we have areas where we're going to be better at. Because we're naturally either more skilled in that area or because we understand the background of those types of people better, or a multitude of different reasons, and that it is, instead of thinking about paying the bills, if you do your business right in the long term, giving away clients, referring them to somebody who is more specialized in a certain area, actually in the long term you'll end up getting more clients, because they'll go away and say to people, you know what, this person isn't just in it for the money, they'll send you to the person who's right for you. So I am suggesting, if you get people that come to you from a military background and it does look like it's going to be something kind of post-traumatic stress disorder related, perhaps check out, you know, Graham's website, which he'll give you shortly, because for the reasons he's already said, the truth of the matter is the chances are he would be able to help that person more rapidly or more thoroughly. Okay, but that's no reflection on your skills in other areas. It's just, you know, each to their own. I mean, you know what I'm getting at there, Graham?
Yeah, like, you know, absolutely. I get what you're getting at. Obviously, the biggest problem is, although there's a lot of people in the military who dabble with holistic therapies in one way or another, I don't know very many people who are hypnotists. Obviously, I know a lot of ex people. You got Carl and the like as well, and people who've obviously, there's a lot of people who've had past military service or otherwise emergency services as well. Obviously, it does come down to competence. That's why I wanted to share what I did at the UK Hypnosis Convention this year, because in my eyes, every therapist can be credible. Every therapist has got the tools that they need. I just feel that talking aspect and understanding, you know, vehicles, drills and skills, locations, deployments. What does tabbing mean? What does walking? What does jacking on someone mean? What does scoff? What's all these different words that we all use when you're hanging out and you just want to get your head down. It's all this little stuff that you want to be able to nip in the bud as such. And like I say, back to everything, gain rapport, build up on someone. Because if you did try to take them on, you go for a consultation, you lose them in that consultation, would they go on to another therapist, or would they try and sit in silence thinking there's no other option for them?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. And you've got to think about the bigger picture, which in long term there's the ethical side, but there's also from a marketing side, actually sending somebody to see someone else who's more specialized in a particular field can actually be better for you, who's making the referral in the long term. And you'll naturally find your own area that you're good at. I mean, obviously, if you're watching and you've got military background or uniformed services background, and you think this is something you'd like to move into, then again, from that contact Graham, and you're obviously going to immediately understand each other, where you're coming from, in terms of if you want to learn how to acquire these skills to work in that area. So tell us a little bit about you. I know you've got, I mentioned earlier, you run the Hypno meetups online, but you've got an event coming up in May, haven't you? A live event.
Yeah, so Hypnosis online meetups, what is it? I used to try and organise meetups just in a local pub, just somewhere where a group of therapists could meet, we could network, we could chat, and weeks would go by, sending out events, people saying, yeah, they're interested, people saying they're going, you end up with 20 people on there saying going, it comes to the night and 4 people are there, and one of them being you, so only 3 other people have turned up, which is kind of the modern day ism, due to the fact of how busy we all are, family life. I get it, I am just as busy too. Plus, if you are an evening therapist and such like that, then you can't necessarily get away because you've got clients, you've got to put food on the table. Absolutely, fully understand. So then I was like, well, why don't we use modern day methods to be able to get this information across? We can meet online, we can have some form of a presenter to be able to share their information. If you join, basically trying to keep it as a live event, although not everyone can make it. So because it's online, it can be recorded, it can be shared.
Yeah.
So just September 2018 was my first one, and we've just gone over a year. Just recently had Beth Gisborne, who's my co-trainer, but she's a massively brilliant marketer, and she works on workshops. Unfortunately, though, I didn't put that one up for replay, just because as much as it was great information, I know she's got bits and stuff that she's working on as well. I've got Stephen Blake talking for me next month. I've had the likes of Melissa Tears, Mike Mandel, Adam Eason, Hazel Gale, Trevor Sylvester, Barry Collins, Phil Steele, Daniel Ryan. The list goes on. Every month, once a month, I host it via Zoom. So it's a lot like a webinar as such. The only difference is every single person who's on that webinar can actually see, can interact, can be a part of it. So if you actually wanted to ask a question to someone, you can raise your paw on the screen, get unmuted as such, just to stop the microphone echo, ask you a question straight to the person's face, and get a direct answer that you want, rather than tapping away on a webinar and hoping that they read it because 40 other questions go flying past at the same time. So I charge £7 for a meetup, pays costs, but I also give something back as well. I've had books in the past sent out, courses. I've just recently had Mike Mandel send out a signed deck of his hypnosis cards. And for February's one, I'm giving away a whole year's subscription to meetups plus my whole back catalogue, which works out just over about £200 worth of stuff. But that's, again, it's got a condition that you have to be there live. If you're not there live, then you haven't got a chance to win it.
Mm-hmm. So what's the website address for people who are wanting to...
So at the moment, well, I'm in the middle of fully built. So you can go on hypnosisonlinemeetups.com, which will take you to my website where I've got my store part of it. Obviously, I've got Facebook page, Hypnosis Online Meetups, and a group, again, Hypnosis Online Meetups. So all that's on there. You can see we have chats. I regularly post. I regularly get a chat up of different courses around that's going, or other little bits and bobs which are happening in the area. Just to basically get people talking. My main thing is to get everyone trying to sing off the same song sheet as such. And I know there's 1,000,001 different modalities. We're all hypnotists. We all need to practice. We all need to do everything. CPD becomes apparent because if you want to keep staying with the times, I know you've got your thoughts of exactly how hypnosis can happen, but all these different approaches that people have, it makes you think how you work. And even if you take that one little nugget, which you say in a session, which creates an unbelievable release for someone, in my eyes, you've earned your £7 back straight away.
Oh yeah, and anyone who's in the industry anyway, it's completely tax deductible business expense for them.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but you're doing a live version, aren't you? I mean, by live, I mean actual live.
Yeah. So again, this was just a thought process of, we've done over a year. Could we put something together that was that we can bring people together to actually have a live network, get everyone together in one room? We've got a list of presenters to come and talk. Some of who've been on before, some who I've worked alongside, and so the 16th and 17th of May in Birmingham at the Hilton Hotel.
2020. If you're watching this, already got. But I'm sure there will be other ones. Hopefully it's again. Yeah. Yeah.
So we've got some of the presenters you've got talking on here. We've got talking. What we've done is, I guess it's called Hypno Meetups Live. That's because that's my background. It comes also on the back end of Hypnosis Online Meetups a little bit. And for me, that's where we started it. But it's every sort of modality. We've got physiotherapists, we've got massage therapists, we've got EFT, we've got IEMT, we've got people who are just going to be passing on information towards marketing, towards pain, towards hypno antidepressants. I bet you can't guess who that one is.
I want to. Yeah.
So, like I say, we've got a multitude of people. We've got some 2-hour sessions. We've got some 1-hour sessions. We've got people who are doing intuition. We've got, like I said, there's a multitude of different people who are there to share their information with us. And then on the Saturday evening, we've got the brilliant Grant Saunders doing a hypnosis show, to have a bit of fun, to bring everything back.
Cool. Well, I hope it goes really well, and then there'll be others in future, I guess.
Yeah,
Are you looking at doing it yearly or twice a year, or?
well, we need to see. Like we say, we may have it. We may have a yearly thing with some sub meetups, places like doing little CBD. I really don't know yet. We need to see how this first one goes. You know, it's new for us in the journey that we're taking. There's a lot of planning and involvement and pushing and everything. So we'll see how it goes. Like I say, I'm really happy with the lineup that we've got. It's very dynamic. It's for someone, like I say, we're not necessarily looking for the most experienced therapists to come, and well, obviously more than welcome. But we wanted to look at them people who are new to hypnosis, the people who may have just started in a therapy but want to know what all this other therapy is. Yeah. That's why we've kept the price down by moving it towards Birmingham. We've been able to literally bring it right down. So the current ticket prices are £125, and with the topmost ticket only being £175 for the 2 days to be there. And yeah, like I say, we wanted to bring it so you can come along, you can have a look at all these different modalities and go, yeah, I definitely want to, I have a niche in that area, or I want to learn a little bit more. So if I'm going to open my own shop, I can be a hypnotherapist, but I could also do some massage. I could look into a physiotherapist. Definitely want to add EFT to my tricks and trades, or yes, I definitely want to add this and that and the other. I really like the sound of that trainer. I'll invest into that person. I did like the sound of that person, but it's not necessarily the way I want to go. Now I know a little bit more about it. It's not necessarily my avenue to take.
Mm-hmm. So. Cool. I like the fact there's all the different modalities. Now, in that regards, that kind of triggered off in my head another question. Generally speaking, as far as I can tell from having spoke to people, what I've researched, what I've seen, in terms of medical doctors referring people for help with PTSD, one of the main things they seem to refer for is people who do the EMDR or equivalent, eye movement desensitization and reprogramming. It's the right mouthful, that. How does Kinetic Shift compare to EMDR?
So I've not tested it, if I'm honest. We have got trainers who are EMDR trainers as well as Kinetic Shift, and they really like it. I think it's, I can't, for me, it's not something I can fully answer, but I know there's aspects of EMDR that are utilised within Kinetic Shift.
So there is the old follow the finger or the pen.
Yeah, you've got an aspect of following to be able to desensitize.
Right, to get the hemisphere to release the amygdala.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So effectively, there's some similarities there. So anyone who's already perhaps doing EMDR, they might want to look into Kinetic Shift because it'll already resonate with them on some.
Yeah, absolutely. It's it's a fast way to be able to approach. I couldn't tell you how long a typical EMDR session is. It's something that I would always like to fully catch up on, but at the moment I've not had a requirement for it. I'm not definitely not here to say that it isn't as much. But from the way I utilise Kinetic Shift, I get results. From the way I utilise my hypnosis and other modalities, I get results. So, there's times where things will become apparent where I want to look about venturing and learning some other bits, which I've got thoughts and plans in my head that I want to get towards. But there's no point rushing too much too soon. Get comfortable with where you are, develop, and then add slowly.
So moving away from PTSD, quite dramatically. I guess you also deal with other things as well, with, shall we say, more civvies, as you would say, normal people.
Yeah. So a lot of myself, I like to work with weight loss. I like to work with anxiety work. Mostly, but with weight loss is because I've had weight loss when I first did my diploma. Bev, who's my co-trainer, helped me lose 3 stone. changed the way how my habits were creating, and I like to use it to pass on information, of which I've had some great results over the years. So obviously that pushes you forward. Anxiety and stuff, because, you know, not going in too deep with it before, but like you said before, everyone has their own opinions of what different things are and what they aren't. Like when you tried to say about the whole PTSD thing, I believe somewhat similar to anxiety. As one example, you know, growing up in Chester in the 90s, you know, I remember paranoia being a really big thing. And you don't really hear that anymore, do you? You just hear this anxiety word. So, you know, not saying that it is the same, and you know, there definitely is differences. However, at the time, was the feelings that people were feeling who they thought they were paranoid, were they actually feeling anxiety? And if, you know, if it is what it is, or if it is what it isn't, what is it?
I think sometimes the problem, negative word, but I'm going to use it just because it makes more sense in normal English. It doesn't make sense in a clean language kind of way, but the person's problem can often spiral out of control through the unknown, through this terminology, or through social
media.
Social media and news and normal media throwing about these scare stories, I suppose.
So obviously not to create any arrows in my back or anything. A lot of people were ill this Christmas, weren't they? The Christmas of 2019. A lot of people had the flu, cold, sniffles, whatever it was, one way or another, someone was ill. My wife being one as well, and we had to, you know, we took her to a call-out doctor, and it was revealed to me that it was an all-time low this year that people took up on the flu vaccination. Now, you know, I know everyone has their own thought and process towards vaccinations, whether it should be or whether it shouldn't be. However, this year it was an all-time low, and this year it was an all-time mass of people coming down with flu XYZ as a result. So, you know, I don't know. Could that just be from what they see on Facebook, social media, or whatever, and where suggestions get fed to lead to stuff? Like I say, I'm not after an argument for it. It's just, for me, it's just looking at evidence and sharing it a little bit. Coincidence, maybe. Reality, maybe. I don't know.
It's certainly an interesting area to think about, because without a doubt, there's more and more people. You mentioned social media, affected by, well, I'd say that their sense of identity has become almost connected to their social media accounts, whether it's getting more likes, you know, young girls getting more likes on their Instagram posts, or, you know, to feel some sense of self-worth, or if somebody puts a thumb, I think you can thumbs down on Instagram or something. I know you can't on Facebook, but, you know, if they get a negative comment, that has a massive knock-on effect on people. Society's changed dramatically, hasn't it, in sort of the past, well, since social media, I would say.
Yeah. It can be taken a lot of, you know, it's one of them things you can't live with and you can't live without, you know, especially for advertising and marketing bits as well. You know, you've got a massive market to be able to reach and things, but at the same time, there's groups. I'm sure many therapists here have been into an anxiety group or something, and there's a lot of feeders in there who feed the anxiety to be able to build up the group to, you know, I'm not saying they do, but potentially monetize or whatever it is. I know whichever way, I don't know.
I'm inclined to agree with you. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Completely hit the nail on the head. Whereas at least with the one man or one woman, not being sexist, doesn't matter whether you're male or female, which one is the individual therapist, you've got to be getting the best results you can for your clients and not making them dependent, because otherwise you're just going to end up getting bad mouthed and not getting more clients, aren't you? So
yeah, exactly.
So
you know, reviews speak for themselves when people are sending you your way. You know, that's how genuine feedback comes to you, isn't it? It doesn't have to be written onto Facebook to get feedback. You know, don't get me wrong. I'm someone who always, you know, likes to ask for feedback too, but time time is precious to people, and if it sometimes just to go on there to actually, I don't know, suppose make light of everything that actually happened, writing a feedback can be quite a big thing for a person as well, because they might not want anyone to see that something's gone on in a personal life. However, 6-8 months down the line, you get a phone call from someone, oh, you help my friend with anxiety, you know, I hear you're brilliant, can I book in with you? Yeah, you know, it speaks for itself, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, we've only got sort of about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to ask you the question I've asked everybody, the other question I've asked everybody, which is, obviously there's people watching who, well, I'm saying there is, I'm not psychic, but at some point, hopefully there'll be people watching who've got tons of experience in this industry, there'll be other people who are just starting out, there'll be people who are perhaps just interested, dipping the toe in the water. So we'll take the example of someone who's starting from scratch. If somebody came to you who's no real experience, no real background, they haven't yet, you know, made any major investment, they may have, you know, bought a few books or whatnot, what would your top 3 tips be to someone if they were looking at going down the path of becoming a talking mind therapist, we'll say, because it doesn't necessarily have to be hypnotherapist, does it? It could be kinetic shift practitioner. It could be whatever.
Yeah. Okay, so for me, there's only one major point. As I said at the start, it took me 4 years to first hypnotize someone. However, the things that I was doing before then haven't changed. You know, regardless, you know, I had so much research into pre-talks, into inductions, into whatever it was, but the only thing that changed was my belief that I could actually hypnotize someone. Me, Graham Webber, being able to tell someone that this is what's going to happen, this is how it's going to happen, and then it happened. So number one is belief. So if you don't believe you can do something, you know, back to the old NLP language patterns, if you try something, you know, there's a chance that it's not going to work because you only tried to do it, but at least you gave it a try. So believe in yourself and do it. Number 2 would be, I would suggest, if you are new and you want to learn it in a nice, confident manner that you can do it, is find a course, a group or someone where you can practice. Now, that's part of the reasons why when we do kinetic shift courses, day 1 is rapid inductions, where we teach 10 inductions. Why teach 10 inductions? Because I only ever really use 1 to 2 of them. But however, if you're now gone from nothing to now knowing 10, where you've literally gone from the easiest to the hardest, what's stopping you from using any of them in the future? And obviously it gives you confidence.
Yeah.
Number 3 would be just be you. Never try and be a robot of someone else. If you try and copy what someone else, don't get me wrong, copy what other people are doing. You can literally copy someone and you can achieve hypnosis.
Yeah.
But don't just
model, as they say in NLP.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely model, but you don't need to go modeling it to the point of this person scratches their left shoulder every 3rd word. So you scratch your shoulder just for that part. Make it you. Like I said before, rapport is something that flows through you. People are either going to buy you or they're not. If you try and be someone who is disingenuous, if you're going to try and be someone who is clearly only doing what you're trying to do for money, or if you are clearly, you know, blasé to the fact, person, regardless of if they're looking at you or whatever, instinct and the rest of it will pick up on it and it will achieve hypnosis. So if you're, you know, you could be saying the perfect pre-talk, but in the back of the head, you're just like, yeah, I'm definitely going to play with your head for a little while. Then it's not going to be achieved. And one of that bits with the belief is believe that you've hypnotized thousands of people already. Okay. Never ever admit, I suppose this is technically my 3rd point. Never ever admit that that person is your first hypnotee. Because I always say to my students, imagine going to a cutthroat barber and he goes, I'm not going to cut your throat today. I'm not going to cut your beard. But yeah, we're going to use my friend.
Straight out if you made any mention of cutting throats. Yeah.
We're going to use my friend here. He's our apprentice, and you are actually his first client. would you let him cut your beard still? You may be letting him cut your throat. You know, hypnosis, regardless of what you know, you don't know your beliefs or whatever, they're not. You know, if you do believe it's mind control, if you believe it's influence or whatever it could be, just make sure that you're telling that person that you've done it 1,000 times, or at least act like you have. Okay, because as far as they're concerned, if it's the first time, you are going to be controlling their headspace. And would you let that happen with someone whose first time it is? I remember the first time I hypnotized someone, it worked, I did it, and then I told everyone it was my first time. Someone else then said, oh yeah, do it with me, and could I get hypnosis? Not a chance, because all of a sudden the secret is out the bag, and so on and so forth.
Excellent. And you know what's really interesting? So far, with the exception of 1 or 2 people, but so far from all the interviews I've got in the can, your point 3, excuse me, I'm about to sneeze, viewers.
Oh.
Excuse me. Your point 3, everyone's come out as one of their points with roughly the same thing. And it's interesting to note that you said you didn't really change anything you were doing as such that hadn't worked. But even though you were doing the same things, it started working consistently when you kind of flicked a belief switch in your own head.
Yeah.
And pretty much everyone said that as one of the points, which is a consistent thing for viewers. If you are starting out, you should see the fact that Graham said it, the fact that Richard Nongard said it, the fact that every man and his dog, male and female, young and old, have said that point, that it's not a coincidence. It's because that is really, really, really vital. So I'd like to thank you very much for your time, Graham. It's been a pleasure. Don't forget, people, below this video there will be a link. That link will be to the Hypno Meetups Live website, and if Graham's got any other website links he wants me to put under the video, he will send them me, no doubt, on Facebook before this video goes live. But if you'd like to verbally tell them as well, again, what your websites are.
So I've got Graham Webber, hypnotherapy.com, on Facebook, Hypnosis Online Meetups, as mentioned before, and hypnomeetupslive.co.uk. Also, if anyone is interested in learning Kinetic Shift, I'd be running a course on the 7th and 8th of March 2020 in Bedford. So if anyone's interested in learning, contact me through any of my pages or Facebook, whichever, or info@grahamwebberhypnotherapy.com, and I can give you any more information you require.
And if you see this after March, it will be up before then, but if you see it after that, don't worry, he will be organising other course dates as well, so still check out the website. Thank you very much indeed, everyone, for watching. Thank you for your time, Graham, and please join me again next week when we'll have another guest on Hypnosis Week.